So today, as I always say, and I always open up with today, it's Colli from Colli Talks Transformative Conversations. But today I'm so honored. I have an amazing guest, and his name is, I hope I pronounce it correctly. And I'm sure if I don't, you can step in and tell me what it is correctly. Is it Michelle or Michael?
I go by both. I'm not too
Okay.
particular.
Okay.
So
And
Michelle.
your last name, I don't want to mispronounce. It's Dorn?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Michel Dorn.
Exactly.
So, perfect. Yep. And as I said, today I'm so honored. I'm humbled actually, because your credentials and your experience and your knowledge and your intellect and your everything, just when I was reading through everything, blew me away. So, for example, you have won a Nobel Peace Prize, and I like how you say, well, a silver, and you were an adjunct professor at 2 universities, lecturing environmental ethics, corporate sustainability, and entrepreneurship. Now, about you, you're a practical mystic and author, solid academic career in environmental science and technology, multicultural, fascinated by the bio-psycho-echo patterns that govern all life. And just for fun, you love to hike, lizards, watching Star Wars reruns, and British comedy. And you have a new book out, The Cosmic Lens, which is a new perspective for thriving in a disrupted world, 7 steps to handling uncertainty with grace and co-creating a livable 21st century. So what can I say except welcome? And I am honored and humbled to have you with us today. And I am going to just ask you to maybe expand on whatever it is you would like to with your background, your experience, but also too, when you have done that, if you could step into the topic of your choice, given the fact that you have so much to share. And I do want to have you back again because there are so many things we could talk about. We could be here for days. So please, welcome. I am so honored to have you.
Thank you so much, Colli. And I am honored to be on your show. And I was really looking forward to it. So I putting the intention out there to be of the best service and also entertainment to whoever is listening. And there's one thing I think I need to set straight, and that's the Nobel Prize.
Oh, okay. Certainly. Go ahead.
Older people among us will remember that Al Gore won half of a Nobel Prize in 2006. He won half of it for his climate work. And the other half was won by an organization called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And at the time, I was working for that organization as one of the scientists. So I did get a tiny, tiny little bit of that Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, awesome.
And at the time, I did a lot of early climate work. It was beginning to be a topic, and countries were working on estimating their emissions. And then the really bright people, the weather people, would take those emissions and see what they could do with it. So that was, and still is, a global initiative.
Right.
And that also got me thinking about global patterns. And I think we are in a really huge transformation period right now, or I should say maybe the last 20, 30 years, 40 years, it probably started. And the big change is that now affects causes and effects, and there are always multiple causes and multiple effects that influence each other.
Right.
They are global. in the past, some of us could fight a war or have disease like the flu or COVID for that matter. And it was local. And I think, and COVID was also a trigger to me to really write this book because it's such elegant, almost example of how fast that virus could spread.
Right.
So that's different from, and I know you are Canadian, and Canada had done a really good job of sealing itself off. And you know how the virus got in? It got in by people who flew private jets. And that was the loophole. And that's how
Oh my goodness.
COVID got to Canada. And you will remember how fast all that went. 1 month it was here, next month it was in the next continent. So why am I saying it's almost elegant? To me, everything has this scientific, objective perspective, but there's always a internal and spiritual perspective.
Right.
So I kind of imagine the universe or God or Mother Earth. I'll leave it up to everybody to choose their own expression of that.
Right.
What most resonates. But let's say God really wanted to wake us up. What better way to do that than by a virus, which is like the tiniest living element there is. And what did the virus teach us? Well, for one, that everything is connected, like we just talked about. But the other message was,
we are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the other message was paradoxically, stay inside, especially in cities. If you live out in the country, you would have a little more of a leeway. But it was about staying inside. So it was also about going inside and really using that time that we were quarantined to go inside of ourselves.
Right.
Which in a way is the gateway to waking up and transforming. So I certainly did that, and I was stuck in the midst of winter in the Netherlands in a small place, and I literally felt I was in a monastery, and I couldn't really go anywhere. I could go for walks under the gray sky. So it was literally about confronting yourself and being inside. And to me, it is almost as if God is saying, okay, it's really time to wake up now for us humans. So I worked in climate change and sustainability for the longest time, environmental protection. So that was my, let's say, regular career.
Right.
And one of the things I say in the book is that whatever we're trying, whatever we're doing now is not cutting it as far as embracing other life forms and taking care of the environment and making sure that climate change doesn't get worse and so on. So I do think we need help and we need to wake up and transform.
Can I ask?
So that's kind of how the spiritual side of this picture is. Yeah, right. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you with regards to what fascinates you about the journey you're on in terms of how did you even get started? Because it is an amazing journey you're on, and you are what you said about, the connection and about a wake-up call. So what got you to this point in terms of when, for you, the light went on about the journey you're on?
Well, there was a specific moment, but the light was always shimmering in the back. I remember as a child being fascinated by nature and being in the outdoors. And this is also why I chose environmental science and technology to work in.
Right.
And I did that with a lot of satisfaction at first. Then here, I'm in North Carolina. There's a good amount of research here. So I was working for this company that did applied research for the Environmental Protection Agency and others.
Okay.
And we had these PhD people on staff, within the company. And they would literally be experts in combustion engine exhausts and power plants and then the environmental aspects of that. So they would be the best in the world when it comes to pollution. And one day after work, I was standing in the parking lot and I was watching a couple of my managers wrapping up the day. I'm walking to their vehicles and they drove one drove like this big truck and the other one drove an enormous limousine. And I remember how my mouth dropped open and I could see the cognitive dissonance.
Right.
Because these experts in their own life didn't make the connection.
Wow.
So that set me on a journey to really look at human side of things, the meaning making, the belief systems, the way we may evolve or can evolve, and how we can open up, or as you say, transform to take in the bigger picture. So that was a key moment that if I wanted to play my part in change and help our beautiful world blossom, I don't even want to say save because that's already kind of anthropocentric, I think. But to further the natural evolution of the beauty that we do have around us, it has to involve the human insight.
Right.
And that's the interesting paradox. Saving the world starts with ourselves. So that has also become more and more the theme of my book.
Right.
Immediately, there is, of course, the danger of that becomes a trap. It can also kind of loop back to a more self-centered type of transformation. And I'd say in the beginning, that's very much necessary.
Right, it is.
But what I hope to accomplish is, So as soon as people are on that healing curve or on that transformational curve, on solid footing, I would hope that they start taking into account that they can influence their environments and their communities. And don't just go for the what do I want, but what is of the greatest service to all of life or all of my community. And the interesting thing is then that also affects ourselves. We also become happier, more evolved if we step into that role of service.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000,000,000%. I was going to ask you with regards to your observations, in the parking lot. And do you honestly feel now that COVID has woken up people? Now, I'm not talking generality here, all people, because that's too universal. But do you feel that people are waking up? Or are they going back to sleep now?
I conducted a survey before I started writing the book right after COVID. And the survey was among various thought leaders, I'll call them, ordinary people also who do think out of the box. And I'll
Right.
give you two quotes from what people told me.
Okay.
One was, it's almost as if COVID didn't last long enough. And the other one is, things are getting better and better and worse, faster and faster.
Wow. That's a mouthful and a meaningful, right? Wow.
Yeah. And to take one quick step back, because it's very negative to say that I don't think that if we don't evolve, transform vertically, I think we're in deep trouble. But that's not to say that there aren't many smaller, wonderful initiatives.
Right.
So I really, really want to honor that as well. And they don't have to be, grandiose or special. If I have a friend and she has made it her purpose to spread as much kindness as possible.
Right.
That can just be a kind word. She works in a corporate office, so she can always choose. Shall I say nothing, or shall I maybe say something encouraging? What a great purpose in life. It doesn't need to be magnificent, or you don't have to build whole eco villages or, save forests. You can do something much more modest. There's no scale there.
Right. And the beauty of that is that the ego, is really not getting in the way, because really to spread just kindness and have compassion, it's the thing that, if anything, I would have hoped for during COVID is that would have, had come out more so out of a lot more people, right? And that what she's doing is amazing because it's a ripple effect. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know when you smile at someone or you say something kind that is truly coming from, a place of compassion and caringness. We don't know how that will ripple into that person's life and then their family and their,
Exactly.
the extension. Yeah. I mean, it's so valuable. It's so missing in our world right now. It really is. And just being kind. It's like, it's simple, but it's so profound.
And something that during COVID, I think it's never highlighted enough, but the unbelievable effort and also compassion that our healthcare workers did bring up. And they were thanked, but they can never be thanked enough. So they really set amazing examples for all of us.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah. I can't even imagine what it was like for so many of them to experience what they experienced, because there's just no way we could experience that without being, right in the war zone, because they were. They were. Yeah. I consider it to be a war zone, that they actually were living through. So you're right. Just that, and it's interesting that something so simple, which is not simple in itself, but kindness. I think back to my childhood. I grew up with kindness. Sure, there were other things happening, but I remember the manners and the morals and my values and everything that was, installed in me. And I'm so grateful that I was taught kindness, because I can't imagine not being. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and yet it's seemingly something that is missing, and the fact that your friend is doing this, it is missing, because where has it gone?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think everybody is innately able to be kind.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are coping, when they're just surviving, kindness may go out the door, unfortunately.
Right.
And I think there is a lot of that going on. And we're fortunate, you live in Canada, I'm in the United States, originally from Northern Europe. In other parts of the world, things are a lot worse.
Exactly.
And some people there manage that kindness and that joy, where we can certainly learn a lot from them. But yeah, I think that is one of the most obvious changes.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much anxiety and stress nowadays.
Right.
Also, also in regard to new wars popping up, politics, non-human stress factors. I can, for instance, think of supply chains, economics the economy that seems to be more and more difficult to maintain, inflation. So there is a lot of disturbance, chaos, and a chaotic world creates chaotic insight, if you will.
Right.
And vice versa.
And vice versa. Exactly.
Yeah. So when I had started writing the book, inspired by the survey, which is also in the book, the results, I had another interesting moment.
Okay. Yes. Please share. Yeah, absolutely. Because that was one of my next questions is what have been some of your most powerful experiences during your journey that has been this transformation in your own life, right?
Well, yeah. So I thought the picture of the book was becoming more and more clear to me. Also, these universal principles that we have highlighted here and there, as within, so without, what happens to one happens to all. But I kind of woke up one day and I go, look, I can be writing about environment and spirituality and transformation until I'm blue in the face. But if we don't address trauma, if people are in that unhealthy, coping, stressful situation, not through a fault of their own, but
right,
nothing is going to work. Nothing is really going to land.
No.
So I thought I need to address trauma. And I did some research online and I thought, okay, I want to work with a woman because I think the masculine feminine balance, not to say that all women are totally feminine and all men are not totally masculine, but
right.
I wanted to work with a woman. Mm-hmm. And I wanted method to address transformation or trauma rather that was fast. So I call her Dr. Birgit. So she's my co-author, and she, after also working in science at the university, she's actually a PhD veterinarian, but she also moved more towards the human factor. And she developed a method not to heal trauma, but to release trauma.
Okay.
And so her name is Dr. or Birgit Virtelbuck. She lives in Munich. And I sent her an email and said, hey, do you want to be co-author of a book?
Oh,
and that was it.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
And then we had some Zoom meetings and we hit it off. And so that became a big part of the book and ensuing course, because writing about trauma release is not the same as actually doing it.
Exactly.
And I don't want to speak for her, but from my perspective, it's really fun to work with her and to bounce or sometimes even disagree about things. But she is this total asset, and she offers this method to get people up to a level where they can start realizing, hey, I'm all right. And I now have the capacity to radiate that out while also taking care of myself. So yeah, it was great. It's great that she
co-authored with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. So did you get to experience any of her method in terms?
Yes, I did. And she works online. She works one day apart from an intake and evaluation.
Right.
And very, very simply put, because I really don't want to speak for her
too
much. It's almost as if she, in her mind, she has her clients write a emotional resume. Like, I was with my brother and we always fought, and when I was 6 and so on and so on and so on, down, up to the current situation. And it's almost as if she creates this constellation, like Hellinger.
Oh, well, that's my background. Yeah, that's my background. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she is able to, I don't know, channel, if you will, that other person.
Right.
And she goes into conversation with her client about this brother or whatever, a bad husband or wife. So she taps into the same energy that is apparent or that emerges during constellation work.
Right.
So she can pinpoint it, and then she can say, okay, are you ready to let it go? And then she has a method to facilitate that.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so wonderful. That's what she does.
I love it. Because that's my background is systemic trauma and family constellation.
Yeah.
So I totally understand what she, I mean, I'm not 100% sure of her method, but I definitely understand her background from Hellinger and her training and stuff. Well, it's wonderful that you did this with her. That's so exciting. My goodness. And the transformations I'm sure people are having from just even reading. It's interesting because even in reading the book, transformation can happen. That's the beauty. Yeah.
If it's a good book, yes.
Yes, absolutely. And it is.
So, thank you.
It is.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you too, this is your calling. And I love when people truly live their calling, right? And as you mentioned, when you were growing up in nature, the moments that called to you this, right? So
yes.
When did you actually know that you wanted to follow this path? Like what I'm looking for that possibility of a moment, which is so exciting to me because it's like, it's a moment of, oh yeah, this is it. I love it. I'm going to do this.
It didn't quite happen like that.
Right.
I was beyond my environmental work, like I described, I was beginning to be more and more interested in the people factor.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I've written another book already quite some time ago, which is more of a novel. And that really came to me like, you need to do this, as if a voice was saying, you're going to write this book.
Right.
And at first you go, Well, that was an interesting dream. I think I'm going to play soccer now, or I'm going to
Yeah.
my work. But then
Wink,
it
wink.
comes back. And the book is called Mantis and the Mirror. So it's about this praying mantis. That is the guide in a hero's journey. And the person on the journey is a young woman. And I do remember visually, I don't know the exact moment in time anymore, but it's, 20 years ago, that there was this book in a bookstore that almost dropped off the shelf.
I love it.
And that book had a praying mantis in the title. It's actually a book by a South African writer who did a lot of work with the Bushmen.
Oh, okay.
It was very, very interesting writing, by the way. His name is Laurens van der Post. But so these messages started coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided to start writing. So it was almost like sections of a journal or journaling, whatever came in, and it just flowed. I noticed it flowed.
Okay.
And so there were many moments where you could feel, hey, this is right. And this idea that is coming through, which I wouldn't consider my idea, but it's coming through at the right time. And this is what's going to make this section flow. So being in that flow, and in this case about writing a book, and I would hope that's absolutely something I would also hope my readers and participants would be able to create more for themselves, where they come into their own flow and their own purpose.
Right.
And I do want to emphasize again, as soon as we're able now, as individuals, the purpose has to be about a greater whole. That's the big switch. That is the big change now in spiritual and coaching and transformational work.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, like I said, it loops back because we transform and we become better or more evolved, happier, joyful human beings if we actually also take care of the kindness comes back.
Right.
So that may be the most simple way to say that.
Okay. So what new ways of thinking and, skills and capabilities do you want to manifest?
In my own life?
Yes.
Well, practice what I preach, of course, which is not always that easy.
No, it's not.
I think getting really clear on moving from first we have looked at our actions and results, and there are still people that constantly talk about, okay, what's the result? What are you going to do? But if you kind of trace that back, you also have the intention and even the thoughts before the intention. So, and in a way, this is age-old meditative practices. So I'm not telling anything new.
Well, it might be new to some people listening, though.
True,
right?
True, but I don't want to claim that I came up with this.
No,
but to realize that going over to somebody and slapping them in the face is almost similar to staying at a distance and thinking unkind or terrible thoughts about that person.
Right.
I think we're getting into another way of saying it is we're moving away from doing and objects. And then we talked about the energy in the practical world, but also in the spiritual world. Everything is energy, which is a whole other discussion. But now it's also becoming everything is information.
Right.
Everything is these patterns of information and either knowledge or negative thoughts, positive thoughts. So to practice non-judgment and to have either no thoughts or kind thoughts towards others and even towards animals and plants. And some people may have the experience that their cat or dog or horse can actually pick up on that.
Oh, absolutely.
So there you have it.
Well, I have to share it right here. It's something when you mentioned plants, I go over to my daughter's home and she has a lot of plants. She loves plants. And I took on the love of watering them when I go over. And it's amazing because she says every time she knows I'm coming now, she goes, I can see the plants are dancing in the window because they can pick up on your energy. And apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently they can. They can pick up on a person's energy coming to the house. So, if plants can do that, and I know animals for sure. I mean, yes, definitely humans for sure. So you're right, in regards to a person standing across the road, basically throwing daggers without really throwing daggers, but, thinking mean thoughts. I mean, I personally have to catch myself when I'm tempted sometimes to, have a sense of feeling going, oh, this could be not a good thought about this person. And I have to catch myself because I go, this is poison.
Yeah, exactly.
Poison, and it's poisoning me when I do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I more and more am training myself to not do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. And I hope more and more people will take that on. And then the next step becomes working with intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a lot of research now out there on plants that pick up on emotions, but also on intention and intention settings and even prayer. So I really see this as a way forward, and the intentions we can formulate, but at the same time, we can open up to this other source, call it the voice of the earth or Mother Mary, I don't care.
Right.
But honing our intuition and realizing, look, this doesn't have to be a totally human endeavor. We're quite smart, but maybe we're not that smart. So, especially in group settings, what is it that wants to be created? What is it that wants to emerge? And how can we hold an intention for that? So that becomes a focused thought. And I'm very fascinated, and I don't know the answers yet because it's ongoing evolution, if you will. We can do that for ourselves, but what if we do this more in groups? And this is not like group thinking. It's just group intention setting for an hour a week or for a specific project or specific cause. Because then we're influencing that field of information. We're radiating, we're broadcasting that field of thought.
Right.
So, and I'm totally convinced we can get help there from the other source. because I do believe the universe is quite interested in this planet.
Oh, definitely. Is this
Yeah.
something that you are going to be, I mean, you're already a part of it, but are you thinking in terms of perhaps creating something that can be, given, teaching about?
Yeah. I do want to teach people how to do this work.
Right.
And there's a separate chapter in the book about how to find a group that resonates with people.
Mm-hmm.
So
a tribe, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a tribe. So,
right.
So I want to give those tools or sow those seeds. I'm not going that far into, okay, you need to be doing this with your group, or you need to be like in this frequency with your group. That goes too far,
right.
For me at least. There are some researchers and teachers that are working with this.
Okay.
And I think it's fascinating. And I also think it may be a key element of the way forward. But start with ourselves, like you so beautifully described. Let's catch ourselves and get a hold of our thoughts and our hearts. Yeah.
Absolutely. And to marry it, to marry, what we're thinking in terms of, to make sure it is connected to the heart for me, and then my soul speaks. It's not my mind or my heart, but my soul will speak if in fact the marrying of the two, is congruent. And that's the way I operate as best as I can now. And it really has helped me in numerous situations, because sometimes before I could have blapped my mouth off and gotten into a lot of trouble. So, yeah. And the only thing I have control over, and a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like the word control, but the only thing I have to keep reminding myself that I have control over is how I react. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how am I going to react when I see a certain situation, right? That's what I have control over. And so that's the marrying of the heart and the mind, and then allowing for the soul to speak. But I was going to say, we're almost closing time here, but I wanted to ask you, how you're going to stretch beyond what you have already accomplished in terms of to take yourself to new levels in your life and your calling. How are you going to stretch beyond this?
That's a tough question.
Okay.
Because I can barely keep up with the tasks I set myself at times.
Right.
I want to launch this program and practice what I preach. I think what I want to get better at is even better at, because who knows if I'm in first grade or in eighth grade, I don't know.
We're all on this journey
really
together.
Listening to what is being asked of us, and also feeling the joy in that collaboration. I mean, it really sounds like we're supposed to be these monks and nuns and everything is no fun and we have to like do things in groups all the time. But it's not. The God or the universe has a sense of humor and an elegance, and to get into that flow and learn how to do that better, not just for me, but for the whole world, for all of life.
Right.
As best as I can. So that's what I want to get better at. And I think that will require a good amount of stretching. Ongoing.
Yeah. So on that note, I want to say again, thank you. But I also want to ask you if you would come back, because there's so much more to discuss, especially with the program that you're talking about. And, when you get closer to to unveiling it and sending it out into the universe. I'd love to be a big part. I'd love to, share it with the audience that is going to embrace you through this conversation. So I hope you would join me and my audience again.
I'd love to, of course. It's also just really lovely and fun to speak with you and to build new possibilities and
absolutely,
which is transformation.
It is, absolutely. And I was going to say, I will post your information with regards to how people can get in touch with you. But just if you could, share your website. What is the best way for people to be in touch with you?
The best way is either getting a book, The Cosmic Lens, which is available on Amazon in audio, Kindle, and paperback. There's also a website, which is www.thecosmiclens.com. And it's only one page, but that has my email address. And I also should include my co-author here. I'll forward you her website and information because it's no one better suited to talk about her work than she is, of course.
Right. And maybe one day I'll have her on.
I think you would love it. You would have a blast.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. So yes, I look forward to receiving that information.
Yeah. So just the book and the website I just mentioned, which is thecosmiclens.com, that has links to me. And I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, and people are very welcome to reach out and follow up.
Okay. Well, I will, like I say, I will post it once I, post the podcast. I will post your information as well, and people can do exactly that. And I know that people will. So thank you so much. I truly, truly am honored and so grateful that you had time for me and my audience today. And like I say, we carry on.
I thank you. And it really has been a delight.
Yeah. So we will talk again. Yes, you too.
We'll talk again.
Lots of love. Thank you so kindly.
Love back. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.